All right, we're talking about a series of unfortunate events, book the seventh, The Vile Village by Lemony Snicket. And in this, the Baudelaire orphans, after Mr. Poe is promoted, I guess, to the head of orphan affairs, go to a village called VFD. Um, and the reason they go there is they know that VFD is involved in everything, essentially. But this isn't the right VFD. This is the Village of Foul Devotees, and they're kind of an interesting group of people. They essentially are the embodiment of it takes a village to raise a child, and everything that goes along with that. So the village adopts the Baudelaires, but they have all these rules. And if you break any of the rules, you're burned at the stake. So, when Count Olaf is captured, he's going to be burned at the stake. Only it's not really Count Olaf, it's a man named Jacques Snicket. And Jacques Snicket, for only being in this book, really, because spoilers, he's killed and the Baudelaires are blamed for it. He's very important going forward. His death is a transition in the series, and I'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, when he's killed, Inspector Dupont, who is really Count Olaf, spoilers, but it's obvious from the get-go, has the Baudelaires arrested. Now, I have yet to mention something. There's a character named Hector in this, and Hector is the groundskeeper for the Village of Foul Devotees. And he's the only one who really takes care of the orphans, and he has this flying house, essentially. It's like a hot air balloon type deal that he could just live in the air for the rest of his life. And inventing and reading are pretty much against the rules of VFD. And so he's been making it in secret, and the Baudelaires have been helping him. Anyway, when they're captured, we start to realize that things are changing in the Series of Unfortunate Events series. It's Klaus's 13th birthday, so we finally are admitting that time is passing. Because it's felt like, for the first 6 books, it's genuinely felt like a void. Nothing's really, changed, with the Baudelaires. All these adventures have happened all at once. And now we're fully admitting, yes, time is passing. The other big thing is, yes, this is the final of the Quagmire trilogy, as I like to call it, because Duncan and Isadora are involved in this series, in this book, and really aren't necessarily going... Yes and no, as to whether they're involved or not in the books going forward. But essentially, trying to find them starts to shift to figuring out what VFD is. Which is kind of, up until you get to book 11... is the goal of the Baudelaires, essentially, is to figure out VFD. And this is the first instance of them trying to figure it out. What did I think of the Vile Village? I like it in some regards, and I don't like it in others, because it doesn't fully commit to its point. The point of this book is to show herd mentality, but it doesn't fully get it all the way. It does end with, them trying to burn the Baudelaires at the stake, which is a memorable sequence. But, there isn't enough satire of it takes a village to raise a child, even, other than saying it. Because you gotta understand, when this came out, that was a big thing people said, and it was kind of a political talking point that was a point of tension in the United States at that time, because it came from, I believe Hillary Clinton was the one who initially said it takes a village to raise a child. And of course, the right wingers hated it. And I'm not going to weigh in on whether or not it takes a village to raise a child, because that's not the point of this review. But my point is, they don't satirize that enough. And I get this is a children's book, but they satirize... The last book, The Eriseth's Elevator, really satirized fashion and popularity to the umpteenth degree. And it was wonderful. Austere Academy really satirized, like, the school system. And then Miserable Mill satirized the workforce. But this one falls flat in the satirical angle, which I find frustrating. It makes up for it with the mystery of VFD and stuff. Also, this is one of Olaf's least... It's one of my least favorite of his disguises he's ever done. And he's just focused on being cool. And like... So that's why the VFD village, like agrees with him, which is kind of funny, but it also doesn't work. Also, there is another character who's a, like, constable that her identity's a mystery, but it's so obvious. And it was obvious to me back when I read this as a kid who it was from the get-go, that, like, I was not particularly thrilled. And I remember reading this one, I believe... Oh, it's hard for me to remember, because, like, I had to go to summer school in summer of 2006, which was when I went from 5th grade to 6th grade. And most of the Series of Unfortunate Events books, like the first half of them, I want to say, I read for sure in school for AR. But I want to say I read Vile Village in summer school. I had to skip some books, like skip around books, because I didn't have them all. The irony is, I had the first 6 books at that time, because, like I've stated before, when you got them from Scholastic, you get them as 3-in-1s. I may have had the first 9 by then. But, like, I didn't like taking my books to school with me, because I didn't like them getting damaged. In fact, the only time I would bring my book from... And this is how complicated I would be with my AR, because a lot of times I didn't read AR books for my personal reading at home, which wasn't the most helpful thing in the world, because I read very slowly back then. But I would read a lot of, like, the Bionicle books and the Star Wars YA EU stuff. And none of that was in the AR system. None of it. So I would have to write book reports, or my 5th grade teacher would be like, she would just take kids aside and, like, say, give me an oral book report. And, like just tell me what happened in this. And, like, I would sit there... So she knew I comprehended what I read. And I did a ton of those. And that's how I had a decent reading score, because I did read a lot at home. Although I did read a lot of comics by that point, and they didn't accept those, period. But anyway, I think I either started this one in 5th grade, because, like, I did read all the Series of Unfortunate Events up to the end, like, up to Penultimate Peril in 2006. I read all of them, well, like, end of 05 into 2006. I read the end when the end came out. I did that, but I think this one I was either partway through Eriseth's Elevator and finished it, in summer school, because I did have to go to summer school because I didn't do my math. Don't be like me. I made my life, especially like in when I was in public school, I made my life really far more difficult than it needed to be. But anyway, I think I was like almost done with Eriseth's Elevator. And what I would do when I was reading these series of unfortunate events books is I would primarily read them at school, and I used like either copies from the library or copies that were in the classroom. And my teacher, she didn't have all of them, and the library only had a certain amount of them. So, and these were so in demand. It was like a big waiting list, and they would actually, the library would call the classroom, as I recall, when it was your time, and you go to the library and check out your book. But the library is not open for summer school. The librarian may be working, but she's not helping you out with getting books when you're at summer school, because summer school is mostly a punishment, and partly to get you back up to speed. But it's mostly a punishment, and the older you get and you have to go to summer school, the more it's a punishment. Thankfully, this was the last time I ever actually had to go to summer school, instead of it being just threatened. Because the 5th grade summer school was terrible, and this was like the only highlight. Because I finished Eriseth's Elevator either at the end of 5th grade or in summer school 5th grade, and then moved on to this. And this was what I read for like that month I was in summer school. Because I snagged a copy from another classroom and read that. And then when I get home, I'd read my copy of it. But I may have had all 12 that were out at the time. I may have had them because we got them from either the Scholastic catalog from school, or we got them from my mom was a member of like every book club on earth at this point, and so she would get a lot of our books that way. Back when it was a good deal to be part of a book club. Spoilers, it's not anymore. Don't. Unless you really, really like representing a handful of modern authors, it is not worth it to be part of a book club. But anyway, I digress. Vile Village in some ways is very good, and it starts to establish the Baudelaires getting older. In other ways, it's a bit tedious, because it doesn't lean into as much of the satirical elements as it quite frankly should. So, what would I rank this one? Because it isn't one of my favorite. It's not my least favorite, especially with this reread. It's not my least favorite thing. We will get to that, and I have a lot to say about that. But it is, out in the main series of Unfortunate Events books, it's probably, this one might be one of my least, it's not the least favorite, like I said, but it's probably in the top 5 least favorites. I'm not a big fan. I give it a solid 4 out of 5. It's very good, but I think it could have been better, and it felt a bit phoned in with its satirical elements. So, and also it's like the last time we really get what I call the classic series of unfortunate events setups with Mr. Poe taking them somewhere. Things get very different starting with the Hostel Hospital and going forward with how these books are set up. So, anyway, have a nice day.